When you buy furniture from Wayfair, you're not just getting furniture, you're setting your home up for a lifetime of memories. Visit wayfair.ca today or download the Wayfair app. Furniture made for all of life's moments. That's Wayfair.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Time is valuable. Thanks for spending your morning with us. The Elias Macko Show on News Talk Radio, CJAD 800.
This is the Elias Macko Show on CJAD 800. I am Akil Aline, honored and pleased to be able to fill in for Elias here this morning, and grateful to you for listening. So here today, we have tackled a number of really, really important subjects, and we're going to continue to do so over the rest of the next hour, such as how the Conseil du Patronat, representing employers in the province of Quebec, is reacting to the failure to secure a trade deal with the U.S. Later in the hour, we'll also be looking at how young adults view technological innovations like AI, as well as other newfangled concepts like the rise of microdramas in the entertainment industry. We're going to be talking to a representative of the Quebec Employers Council, the Conseil du Patronat, and to Mitch Joel, tech advisor, on those subjects later on in this hour. But first, what are the legalities concerning body cameras on police here in Montreal, as well as the city's new municipal bylaw? Montreal police, we're told, are finally getting body cameras, and the city is also proposing new powers and rules aimed at protecting police and other municipal employees from insults, threats, and intimidation. Now, on the surface, body cameras could provide an important record of what happens during police interactions. However, once the camera is turned on, some very important legal questions arise. When does a police officer have to record? When can they turn the camera off? Who has access to the footage? And can that video footage ultimately be used against you in court? There are also questions surrounding the city's new municipal bylaw. Where does the line get drawn between someone simply insulting a police officer and behavior that could actually result in legal consequences? And how does a municipal bylaw fit alongside the criminal code and Quebec's other laws? So today we're going beyond the headlines, and we're going to look at the legal side of these new police powers and the body camera rollout. We're going to be talking to Eric Sutton, criminal defense attorney, about what police can do, what citizens need to know, and what protections you have. Thanks so much for joining us, Mr. Sutton.
My pleasure. Good morning, Mr. Lee.
Yes, good morning. And so what is your initial reaction to this announcement that the police are going to be getting body cameras? It's an idea that we've heard kicking around for some time, but there have been delays. Is this good news? Is this bad news as far as you're concerned?
Well, I think it's a development that was inevitable. We're certainly not blazing any trails here. These are widely used by police forces south of the border, and even by the Ontario Provincial Police. So it's a tried and true method of investigation, and it does probably ensure that a lot of the disputes that arise as to what actually happened will be perhaps, resolved by having reliable video and audio recordings of exchanges between the police and suspects or witnesses.
It seems to me that in order for body cameras to mean anything, there would probably have to be requirements that police, not only wear them, but actually activate them and keep them activated during encounters, not that they not be able to cover them up during convenient moments or turn them off, and that there be consequences for cops who maybe violate those rules. As far as you know, is that part of the package? And if not, should it be?
I think the police have said already on this issue that the cameras will be activated at all times. There could be circumstances where to protect privacy that they may turn them off, but for the most part it would be suspicious. It would be seen as suspect if a police officer turned off his camera without any reasonable justification. So they should be, while they're patrolling and investigating criminal activity or suspected criminal activity, or just doing their routine patrol work, when there are interactions, the camera should indeed be rolling.
And especially coming from your perspective as a criminal defense lawyer, do you consider this Do you think this is going to make much of a difference to your job, for example? Is it going to be helpful to clients, whether your clients or clients in general, defendants in general?
It can work both ways. Obviously, I could imagine in impaired driving investigations that it might be very problematic for defense lawyers. It might clinch a case for the prosecution, or it might show the opposite, that a suspected impaired motorist really is not impaired at all. You know, there's also going to be audio, or there should be audio. I mean, the Ontario Provincial Police, I do some work in Ontario, and I've had experience with their body cameras, which are disclosed as part of the obligation to disclose evidence. So you get the video and audio recordings, and I did a case recently which was clinched for me because I was able to establish that the police had done an illegal search of the trailer of a truck looking for stolen vehicles. So you know, it can work both ways, but ultimately you want justice to be done, and you want to feel that to whatever extent you have the most reliable evidence that allows the right decision to be made by the court.
Right. Yes. A record of what happens. I can see how that could be useful, and how it could be useful to people on both sides of any given criminal case. So that's not surprising to me. But coming up, this is the Elias Mackle Show on CJAD 800. I'm Akil Aline, filling in for Elias this morning. I'm joined by criminal defense attorney Eric Sutton. We're discussing the recent changes and the legalities concerning the recent changes to the policy on body cameras for Montreal's police, as well as the city's new municipal bylaw and rules aimed at protecting police and other municipal employees from insults, threats, and intimidation. So what do you think about this issue? Do you think that the body cameras are a good thing, a bad thing? Do you maybe think they won't make much of a difference? And what do you think of the idea that there be rules against disrespecting or intimidating police and other municipal officials? Is that a good idea? Please be sure to call or text into our studio at 514-790-0800 and share your thoughts with us. Speaking of which, Eric, this whole rule about saying that it's actually going to be the idea of people disrespecting or intimidating or being aggressive towards police and other municipal employees, we're going to crack down on that kind of behavior. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? Does that raise any concerns with you?
I think we would like to think that the police are entitled to be respected. In fact, this type of bylaw exists in other municipalities and has been enforced. The police are entitled to be shown due respect. There can be instances where the police themselves are disrespectful or abusive or unduly aggressive or rude, and they shouldn't be surprised if a citizen responds in kind. So I just hope that the rule or the bylaw is applied with a certain amount of discernment, when it's really appropriate. We don't want it to be these tickets to be issued, abusively or without, just cause. Obviously, it's a ticket; it can be challenged in court, but it's not a lot of fun to go to court, spend a day, prepare, have the stress over a ticket. Some people pay them rather than deal with the burden of going to court. So you want to make sure the police are careful not to abuse their discretion and issue these tickets when they really shouldn't be, because it's a very vague notion. Is a police officer really feeling intimidated by a remark a citizen has made, insulting language or offensive language? Again, it's not defined, but so we just want to be vigilant about how it's used.
Do you think, just very quickly, because we're running low on time, but do you think in principle that that should even be an issue, that it should even be possible to criminalize or otherwise restrict certain kinds of speech towards police or other government employees? Does that not maybe raise charter concerns, free speech, freedom of expression, that sort of thing?
Well, bear in mind that we're not criminalizing it. This is a bylaw. It's essentially a ticket. It's not going to change someone's life if they're found guilty of the infraction.
But even so, though.
free intimidation is already illegal. Harassment, if someone is fearful because of they're being harassed or intimidated, it's already a criminal offense in any event. Using offensive language is not. It's not being criminalized here, and you might say that if a police officer is steps out of line in the way he or she is treating a citizen, they should perhaps accept that they might be the object or exposed to offensive language. That's where I think there could be a potential challenge to the legality of the bylaw. But is it too sweeping? I certainly accept intimidation, harassment. That's already a criminal matter. But when you get into just plain offensive language, I hope the police are careful about, as I said already, about issuing tickets for that type of alleged infraction.
Eric Sutton, criminal defense attorney, thank you so much for joining us and shedding some light on this issue with us.
All right. Have a good day.
Take care. Now let's...
Wayfair's Labor Day clearance is on now. Right now at Wayfair, you can get up to 70% off everything home. Shop Wayfair's Labor Day clearance now through September 7th at wayfair.ca.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Canadian women are looking for more out of themselves, their businesses, their elected leaders, and the world around them.
And that's why we're thrilled to introduce the Honest Talk podcast.
I'm Jennifer Stewart.
And I'm Catherine Clark. And in this podcast, we interview Canada's most inspiring women.
Entrepreneurs, artists, athletes, politicians, and newsmakers, all at different stages of their journey.
So if you're looking to connect, then we hope you'll join us.
Listen to the Honest Talk podcast on iHeartRadio or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Breaking news. Considered.
The
Elias Macko Show.
News Talk Radio, CJAD 800.
Well, he can kiss my ass as far as I'm concerned. We're going to go at him full steam. Maybe I have an idea. We'll get Danielle Smith on board so the cars that they're manufacturing won't be able to fill up because we'll be controlling the oil and the gas going down there. We need to throw everything in the kitchen sink at him. He's arrogant. He's cocky. He's going to have a rude awakening.
I have to admit, and I hope I'm not being immature here or trivializing the issue, but I live for moments like this. I just live for moments. This is one of the reasons I went into journalism, ladies and gentlemen. I love it when, especially people in positions like that, like Doug Ford's position or other elected public officials, they just let loose and keep it all the way real. Like the byline, the tagline from the old, maybe still going on, I'm not sure, MTV reality show used to say on The Real World, they used to say, when people stop being polite and start getting real, those are moments that I really live for, because this is when you get a glimpse of how people in positions of power really feel about these issues. And in this case, it mirrors the way a lot of ordinary Canadians feel about that particular issue, namely, the trade negotiations and the collapse of the trade deal between Canada and the U.S. over the weekend. And on that very subject, we're going to be looking now at how that issue is affecting a particular industry in Canada. How is the Aluminum Association of Canada, in particular, reacting to the lack of a deal? Trade negotiations between the two countries have been suspended, leaving businesses on both sides of the border facing even more uncertainty. One sector in Canada that's been hit hard since the beginning is the aluminum sector. And so with no deal, what is the level of concern? How can the government continue to help them out? Joining us to shed some light on that is Jean Simard, President and CEO of the Aluminum Association of Canada. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Simard.
Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. So, just briefly, how did you and your colleagues at the association react to this development over the weekend? Because it looked for a while like the sides might have been on the verge of a deal, and then it seemed to unravel fairly quickly, I would say. What was your initial reaction?
Well, we weren't surprised because we saw as the week went through, as of midpoint in the week, that there was a course correction coming out for the U.S. media, which was bringing Canada to a situation where they would have to face the unacceptable and probably exit the negotiations for all sorts of reasons. So, not surprised. We find it unfortunate, though, for small and medium businesses around across the country that are being hit directly by this situation, and other businesses in the aluminum sector, the downstream, the shops that reprocess aluminum into semi-finished goods and finished goods that are really impacted. They can't export anymore, so that's where the government has to come in. As for ourselves, the large primary producers of Alcoa, Rio Tinto, and Alouette, we've been holding through this crisis since a year ago when the 50% tariff were applied to our sector, and basically the U.S. market is bearing the full brunt of this tariff. So they're basically taxing themselves on the use of aluminium.
Of course, right? That is how tariffs work. The whole idea is to make your own country's consumers pay higher prices for imports in the hope of discouraging them from buying those imports and buying domestic manufacturers instead, right? So tariffs can't work unless they jack up prices, at least some prices for domestic consumers. But I do wonder if you could tell us some more in detail about what measures you think should be taken to respond to this, not only in the aluminum sector particularly, but across the whole economy.
Well, Canada's announced that it would have retaliatory measures that will come in force on September 8th. They will certainly be aimed at products coming in from the U.S. that we can replace with Canadian products, and at the same time ensuring that you're not inflicting pain on your own domestic sector by taxing inputs that they need to reprocess. So I would say at a very high level and strategically, this is Canada's posture going in. Beyond that, it's not only about tariffs, it's probably all counter tariffs, but it's also about other means to inflict pain and send a strong signal to the U.S. economy that this matter needs to be resolved, or else everybody will end up paying through the situation. At the same time, and more urgently, governments in Quebec, the federal government, Ontario, all the other governments have to be able to actively and urgently intervene to help out the small businesses that will not be able to make it through the coming weeks without direct government support. And meaning here, they will need money to be able to adapt to the situation and possibly revert to domestic markets. And speaking of domestic markets, we've all been talking about making Canada our own market and owning ourselves. Well, we have to go from words to action, and public utilities as well as provincial governments have to make sure that not only they've taken down the barriers, but that the tendering processes come out for businesses to bid and redirect their production. Because if it takes too long, they won't need to do it. There won't be any businesses left.
That's true. Yes, there are all kinds of regulatory barriers to trade between Canadian provinces that also need to be attacked. This is the Elias Makos Show on CJAD 800. I'm Akil Aline filling in for Elias Makos right now, discussing the Aluminum Association of Canada and how it's reacting to the failure to secure a trade deal with the states. I'm speaking with Jean Simard, President and CEO of the Aluminum Association of Canada. If you have any views on this subject or the larger issue of the trade war between us and the states, of course, our text and call line is, as always, 514-790-0800. So, Mr. Simard, long term, are you concerned about the possible long-term political posture of the United States? For example, and I had one of our listeners text this into me earlier today. What if the Republicans somehow snatch victory from the jaws of defeat and manage to win the midterm elections this November? What happens if a successor to Trump, someone very Trump-like, gets elected to president after Trump leaves office? What if we have to deal with this kind of hostile trade posture from the United States long term? In addition to everything you've said, maybe on an international level, is there any realistic hope that we can rely on other trading partners to replace the U.S. market if that's what it comes to?
Well, I think that Canada has shown the way over the past year with Prime Minister Carney and his government entering into free trade deals with about 20 different countries, which is not the case with America, with the U.S. because they're really building up resistance internationally instead of achieving this kind of result. At the same time, we are restructuring our economy in different sectors, and as Prime Minister Carney rightly says, we have what the world needs. So if the U.S., as they pretend, don't need what we have, other countries need it and want it. So it's a matter of it's an exercise in equilibrium between keeping our access to the U.S. while being able to develop more access to other markets with products that in today's world and tomorrow's world are highly prized. And I'm thinking here about energy. I'm thinking about critical minerals. I'm thinking about aluminium, potash, uranium. We have all of it. If our southern neighbor doesn't want to work in a level playing field within a trade agreement called Canada, U.S., Mexico, CUSMA, well, we're gonna have to export elsewhere, and there are takers.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us, Jean Simard, President and CEO of the Aluminum Association of Canada. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. Now, this is the Elias Macko Show with Akil Aline filling in for Elias today. In the last half hour, we'll be tackling how young adults view AI and the rise of microdramas in the entertainment industry. But for right now, let's check out the news.
This newscast brought to you by Chico Pet Stores. Go to chico.ca to see our flyer and take advantage of great offers. Chico, where local pets love to shop.
Wayfair's Labor Day clearance is on now. Right now at Wayfair, you can get up to 70% off everything home. Shop Wayfair's Labor Day clearance now through September 7th at wayfair.ca.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Hello, Canada.
This is Bryan Adams Radio, hosted by Bryan Adams himself.
We'll play a few of mine, a ton of my favorites, and some must-hear behind-the-scenes stories from the world of rock and roll.
I'm coming to get you!
One thing about doing rock and roll so long is you end up meeting a lot of the people that you admire. Sometimes you even get to work with them.
It's only love, and that's all. Bryan Adams Radio. I'm coming back to you. Now available on the free iHeartRadio app.
Hey everybody, how are you tonight? Sounds great.
For details. On a need-to-know basis, he's got you covered. Elias Mackos, CJAD 800.
It's the Elias Macko Show on CJAD 800. I'm Akil Aline, honored to be able to fill in for Elias here this morning. Up next, how young adults view new technologies like AI, as well as the rise of microdramas in the entertainment industry. I think I've actually stumbled on some of these myself online. Here to chat with me today to shed some light on these newfangled notions is Mitch Joel, tech advisor, investor, and author of Control, Alt, Delete. Mitch, thanks so much for joining me. Mitch, do we have Mitch on the line? So,
Just earlier, it was great. Hello?
Hello.
I'm here.
Yes, thanks so much, Mitch. It's great to talk to you. Are you with us, Mitch?
I am. Hello.
Great. Fantastic. Akil Aline here. Thanks so much for joining me. Now, I understand that you have some things to share with us to hype us to when it comes to things like AI and the response to AI of some younger adults, right? Because there's this assumption in society. I think a lot of us might approach these issues with this assumption. Young people, we're always forward thinking. We're always looking for the next big thing. And so we're always embrace brand new technologies. Is that actually the case with AI at least? Hello? Oh, looks like we're having some
people automatically. Are we there?
Yes. Could you just repeat?
Hello?
Can you hear us? Oh, just a moment.
Sure.
Sorry, it looks like we're having a bit of difficulty.
I'm freezing up.
Yeah, so you can hear everybody though, right?
Yeah, I don't know why that's happening, but
okay.
Is everything there?
Great. So you heard my question.
I hear everything great, yeah.
Fantastic. So if you could, sorry about that, if you could just repeat your answer. Do young people or younger adults embracing AI?
I did.
Oh, looks like we're...
Yeah, I think that there's a kind of a lazy assumption that young people are automatically going to... Is it working?
Sounds like you're breaking up a bit there. We'll see if we can...
Are you guys there?
I can hear you now, Mitch, if you'd like to try replying again. Yes. Yeah, we're just gonna keep trying to get through to Mitch reliably. But in a nutshell, Axios has this interesting piece, Axios.com, that shows that younger adults are actually becoming more concerned than excited about AI. And the main reason seems to be, more than anything else, fears for their jobs. I have to keep reminding myself not to say our because I'm not so young anymore, but I can still relate to the concern. Yes, do we have Mitch? Are you with us?
Yeah, I'm there. We did it by phone. I don't know what happened there.
Fantastic. So glad you could join us. So again, young people, younger adults at least, are they embracing AI like a lot of people might expect them to?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing because there's this lazy assumption that young people just automatically embrace everything new, including technologies or tools or apps. And I think that this generation is clearly looking at AI very differently. And, my general sentiment, Akil, is that I think it could be potentially the worst marketed new technology in the history of everything. It's extremely strange to be in a place where, one, you're being told if you don't use it at work, you're going to be let go. You're being told that if you do use it, it might ruin your cognition or make you less experienced or less effective. And then more importantly, which is I think where we're getting at now, is that young people are really, going to have trouble with this. And I think it's really, really true. There's like job market fears that are just in general. So we have that, we know about that. But suddenly, if you're in this place where you're being told that AI can do a lot of the work that typically we would hire you for, that delta of anxiety is both natural and then very scary. It's scary for individuals. I think it's also just scary for the economy as well.
And that makes perfect sense, doesn't it? No matter how forward-thinking any person of any age or background might be, if a new technology comes along that seems to threaten to take your job, then you're going to have some concerns about it. Isn't that the case?
Yeah, look, for sure at that level, and it's normal, and we're seeing that. We see that in even basic things like AI filtering out potential candidates. Most of the job board network online is now driven by these AI tools. But I think the bigger part that we have to start thinking about is just the forward-looking problem, which is if young people aren't there, that means in 5 years, the people who become experienced also aren't there. And so the biggest risk here is not that AI is going to eliminate all work. I think it's that it's going to weaken this first rung on the career ladder, which leads to really dramatic problems, not in the long term, but in the near to middle term as well.
Absolutely. I can see that. And, when it comes to other new things emerging, in this case in the media, I suppose, in the world of show business, I understand Reuters also has a story about the rise of microdramas. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, so this was a very big thing like decades ago in Asia, in particular when mobile phones came into fruition. These content creators in Asia would create these mini text-based, almost like SMS text-type stories that you could engage with on the subway and metro, almost like little novellas and stories that capture the attention. And over the years, many people in the content world have tried and attempted to do this. Now, obviously, fast forward to where we are today, and we're in the TikTok, Instagram generation, and it finally looks like some of these types of content are now cracking through here. I don't know if you had a chance to check out, there's this microdrama on TikTok called Screen Time. Have you checked that one out? That's a very, very big one. And there are some others. Kim Kardashian's done an investment. Kevin Hart's got one called Heartbeat. And the idea is that they really capture your attention in these little, they call them episodes, but they're like 45 seconds to like 90 seconds. And they're quite compelling. They drop you right into a story. There's some type of drama happening. And it's really meant to break up that doom scrolling scroll generation, to capture people. But again, this isn't just your friends or a recipe or a comedy act. It's actually content from a drama being created for that generation.
Well, it's interesting. I haven't encountered that one. Maybe it's because I'm not much of a TikToker, but I have seen some other what looked like microdramas to me based on your description on mostly Facebook, I want to say, and maybe Instagram, where they tend to be, in my view, sort of cheesy in that they seem to want to send very clear-cut, simplistic moral messages. Like there'll be a story about a company and a person who's like an outsider, and a family, his girlfriend's family, are really arrogant snobs and they're treating him terribly, and it turns out he's a successful entrepreneur who bought up the company and he's about to show her, and it's entertaining. It's almost like junk food for the mind, if you ask me, but that's just my opinion, although I've gotten sucked into some of them too, so I could see how other people would be as well.
Yeah, I mean, look, to me, they're not just short shows. They are these mobile native serialized ways of telling fictional stories. And they're really built for the thumb and the scroll and the cliffhanger. And I feel like, one is it could be like an economic response to just how Hollywood is shrinking and changing. But I also think it's creatively interesting. It's probably very commercially smart too, because it's really showing how every medium in entertainment and media eventually bends towards the will of the dominant distribution platform. In the world of shorts and Instagram and TikTok, this seems like it's of the times. I guess the question will be if they can create these serialized fiction stories to be as compelling as the stuff that's capturing our attention right now.
The times they are a-changing. How many times have we heard that theme before, huh?
They are, yeah, all the time.
That is indeed the case. Thanks so much for joining us, Mitch Joel. I really appreciate you taking the time to shed some light on this for us.
Thanks, Akil, and apologies for the tech.
Not at all. Not at all. We've all had those moments. Now, let's...
Wayfair's Labor Day clearance is on now. Right now at Wayfair, you can get up to 70% off everything home. Shop Wayfair's Labor Day clearance now through September 7th at wayfair.ca.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Hello, Canada.
This is Bryan Adams Radio. Hosted by Bryan Adams himself.
We'll play a few of mine, a ton of my favorites, and some must-hear behind-the-scenes stories from the world of rock and roll.
We're coming to get you!
One thing about doing rock and roll so long is you end up meeting a lot of the people that you admire. Sometimes you even get to work with them.
It's only love, and that's all.
Bryan Adams Radio.
I'm coming back to you.
Now available on the free iHeartRadio app.
Hey everybody, how are you tonight? Sounds great.
The Elias Macco Show. News Talk Radio. CJAD 800.
It's the Elias Macco Show on CJAD 800. This is Akil Aline. Honored to be able to fill in for Elias for the first time. And I want to thank everyone who has joined me here today. It's much, much appreciated. I'd like to take this opportunity to look at some text messages that we've had come into our text line over the last several hours that I wasn't able to get to earlier in the show, but that really did contribute something interesting to the conversations that I've been having here today. So, for example, earlier, I talked with Claire Clifton Newton, a retired former social worker at Batshaw Youth and Family Centers. They are a major provider of youth protection services, particularly to the English-speaking community here in Quebec. And this one texter texted saying, in the 70s, I also worked there at Batshaw as a math tutor. And this texter says they had orphans aged 12 to 14 mixed together with serious criminals, 16 to 17-year-olds. So that's one person who says they've actually worked in I guess you could say an adjacent field, not necessarily as a social worker, but at the same organization, providing similar services to these vulnerable youths who are in the youth protection system. And that's one particular error, one particular flaw that this person sees in the system that who knows? Maybe it's already been changed since the 70s, hopefully. But that's one contribution to that conversation. Much appreciated. Also, when it comes to the trade war between Canada and the States, this texter says Canada should drop all tariffs coming in because it only increases prices here and protects nothing. Again, I tend to sympathize, although I'm not sure I would say drop all tariffs. I do think the initial round of retaliatory tariffs had to be done because a message needed to be sent that Canada won't take Trump's abuse lying down. This texter went on to say it embarrasses the USA and gives strength to the U.S. companies and politicians who are against the tariffs. There, I'm a bit confused. I would think that, because you seem to be saying, this texter seems to be saying that it's a bad thing that retaliatory tariffs strengthen those American politicians and businesses that are against the tariffs? Isn't that a good thing for us? Don't we want some Americans at least to speak out within the United States against Trump's policies? I've actually interviewed on CJAD before on open mic night a constitutional law professor in the States, in Virginia, who's actually been personally involved in orchestrating some of the litigation, the lawsuits before the U.S. Supreme Court that helped strike down some of the earliest rounds of Trump's tariffs, saying that he didn't have the power to do that alone without Congress's say-so as president. We need more of that, if you ask me. We need more Americans like him who are willing to stand up to Trump and not only say that what he's doing is wrong, but take action to stop it. If you look at some of the other interesting text messages that I've gotten, one other texter says, if Canada sells electricity to the U.S., why not add tariffs there, plus on oil? I think this is a tricky one policy-wise, because if it's Canada selling electricity to the U.S., that's technically an import of sorts. The U.S. importing a product from Canada. If anything, I would think that would be ripe for the U.S. to slap tariffs on that, although I imagine they wouldn't be quick to do so, even with Trump in the White House, because I would hope he would have the sense not to do something that would obviously drive up energy bills for cash-strapped American consumers and voters who are already annoyed with the persistently, stubbornly high cost of living. But again, maybe we need that kind of out-of-the-box thinking. That's what I will say in response to that particular text message. Maybe tariffs, retaliatory tariffs aren't the solution. Now, I have heard, I think it was Doug Ford talking in the past about, Ontario Hydro and the electricity that it sells to the states. Maybe that should be cut off in some sense. Again, like I said earlier, there's nothing that either country can do to the other to hurt the other that won't hurt that country itself in some way to some degree. And so even if we did that sort of thing, use that tactic instead of retaliatory tariffs per se, it would still be a case of short-term pain for long-term gain. Hopefully, best case scenario. But it remains to be seen. I do think we need to look into options other than retaliatory tariffs, though. I do really appreciate all of the text messages that everyone is sending in. I really do appreciate your contributions to the conversation. It's so much of what makes this position engaging and enjoyable. And to move on to another topic, and this is something, again, where I would like to hear from you, the listener, if at all possible. Again, the number to text or call in is 790-514-790-0800. And this interesting Facebook post that I saw from former city councilor Craig Sauvé, he pointed out and he shared this picture on Facebook of Anthony Housefather, a Liberal MP from the riding of Mount Royal, actually down in Florida, helping campaign for his personal friend as well as political sympathizer, Democratic Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Now, this is not something that Mr. Housefather is making any effort to hide, so clearly he doesn't think there's anything wrong with it. It remains to be seen whether any of his constituents will think so. Personally, I don't really think so, as long as it's done in a very transparent manner above board. Now, there have been cases in the past where, if someone from one country speaks out on politics in another country, especially while they're physically present in that country, visiting in person, it can come across, usually to people who oppose that person's politics in the country they're visiting. They might protest and say, "Oh, you're trying to interfere in our domestic democratic process, and that's wrong." But well, it would be something that would be hard to stop at this point because it keeps happening, right? I remember it might have been about 20 years ago, maybe 20-something years ago, Michael Moore came to visit Canada. I think it might have been in the run-up to the 2006 election, or maybe the 2004 federal election, one of those two, in the mid-2000s. And he was telling Canadians, I hope you guys don't make the mistake of voting in Stephen Harper and his Conservatives. They're just going to give you a government like what we have down here. This is back when George W. Bush was president. And so I remember there were some Tories, including young Tories here in Canada, who spoke out against that and said, "Oh, Michael Moore is interfering in our domestic political process. How dare he?" This is another example of an American a political figure, not a politician, but a political figure, trying to interfere in Canadian politics. Now, often you hear maybe more left-wing Canadians who lean left, condemning American politicians or political figures who lean right for that sort of thing. But here, that script was flipped, right? The tables were turned. So that was what was interesting in that particular case. But what do you think? Do you think there's anything wrong with Anthony Housefather going to Florida to campaign for a friend of his who happens to be a politician there? I do see one texter on our text message line saying, Housefather won't get my vote. Okay, well, that's short, sweet, and to the point. Thanks for sharing that with us. So, I see another person actually texting in on our text line now, and I guess they're addressing some of the other issues that I've looked at and tackled in this episode, namely the trade wars between Canada and the U.S. This texter says, if Canada had stepped up and backed the U.S. in their efforts to see that Iran never becomes a nuclear power, there would be no tariffs on us, period. I have to disagree. I don't think that's true. I just don't. I think Trump is so mercurial and unpredictable and hot-headed. He believes in tariffs ideologically, and he personally is a big fan of protectionism and protecting U.S. industries from foreign imports. So I don't think you can really blame it on Canada.
When you buy furniture from Wayfair, you're not just getting furniture, you're setting your home up for a lifetime of memories. Visit wayfair.ca today or download the Wayfair app. Furniture made for all of life's moments. That's Wayfair.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
iHeartRadio is throwing it back.
2010s, the decade.
To the days of huge hits and unforgettable anthems. A non-stop stream of the biggest and best.
Drake, Rihanna, Beyonce, Katy, Gaga, The Weeknd.
And more. All your decade-defining favorites all in one place.
Hi, it's Katy Perry.
Hey, it's Bruno Mars.
This is Kesha.
Find 2010's The Decade on the free iHeartRadio app. Preset the station so it's always one tap away.
Not joining in Trump's war on Iran. Now, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. As I'm fond of saying, you could have been listening to anyone else in the world or anywhere else in the world, but you're here listening to me. Thank you so much for listening to me, Akil Aline, filling in for Elias Makos on the Elias Makos Show today. And with that, let's hear from the news. And let's also, up next, we have the Vasi Capello Show. If you missed the Big Five this morning, it's available on iHeartRadio and all your podcast apps. And at 2 p.m., we'll have Montreal Now. So this is Akil Aline signing off. Thanks so much, and here is the news.
This newscast brought to you by Supermarché Akavan, where fresh, hot bread is baked on the spot every day. Freshness you can taste, quality you can trust.
Hello, Canada.
This is Bryan Adams Radio. Hosted by Bryan Adams himself.
We'll play a few of mine, a ton of my favorites, and some must-hear behind-the-scenes stories from the world of rock and roll.
Coming to get you.
One thing about doing rock and roll so long is you end up meeting a lot of the people that you admire. Sometimes you even get to work with them.
It's only love, and that's all.
Bryan Adams Radio.
I'm coming back to you.
Now available on the free iHeartRadio app.
Hey, everybody, how are you tonight? Sounds great.